There are feelings you've had your entire life that you never had a word for. Not because they're rare, but because no single language bothered to name them. Here's one. You're sitting in traffic. You glance at the car next to you. Some stranger, tapping the wheel, completely inside their own world. And for just a second, it hits you. That person has an entire life. A childhood, a set of fears, an argument they've been replaying all week, a favorite song, people they love, a whole story just as long and complicated as yours. And you will drive away and never know a single thing about any of it. That feeling has a name. Sonder.
Sonder is that moment your brain tries to hold the fact that every single face you pass is a whole person. It usually hits in crowded places, train stations, airports, busy streets. Your mind reaches for the scale of it, and then quietly gives up, because the scale is too much. It sounds obvious when you say it out loud. Of course, everyone has a life, but actually feeling it, really feeling it, is something different. It's not good or bad, it's just enormous. And Sonder is just the beginning. You probably know nostalgia, that warm, slightly sad pull toward the past. But there's a version that cuts deeper, where you're not just missing a time, you're missing a place, a feeling, a version of your life that no longer exists. And the cruelest part, even if the place still stands, the thing you're actually missing doesn't. You can go back, it just won't be the same. In Welsh, this is called hiraeth, a longing for home, but a home you cannot return to, or one that maybe never existed quite the way you remember it. Welsh speakers will tell you it genuinely doesn't translate, not for drama, because English truly has no word for it. People feel it for their childhood neighborhood after it changes, for the early days of a relationship, for a summer that felt like it should have lasted forever. There's a grief to it, even though nothing bad technically happened. Things just moved on, and hiraeth lives in that gap. But not all of these feelings are about the past.
You know that phase early on with someone you like, where your brain basically stops cooperating? You've had maybe 2 real conversations with this person, but you've thought about them an embarrassing number of times. You check your phone more than you want to admit. When they do message, there's a little rush that makes no rational sense given how little you actually know them. That's not just a crush. A psychologist named Dorothy Tennov studied this in the 1970s and named it limerence. What separates it from simply liking someone is the involuntary quality. You're not choosing to think about them constantly. Your brain is doing it on its own. And it won't stop until it gets what it's actually looking for, which isn't the person exactly. It's reciprocation. Every small thing they do becomes data. A fast reply means something, a slow one means something else. The moment the uncertainty resolves, either they like you back or they don't, the feeling tends to vanish almost immediately, which tells you everything about what it really was. Some feelings, though, aren't about people at all. They're about places. There's something specifically unsettling about a place built for people when the people are gone. A school during summer break, an office on Sunday evening, a stadium an hour after the game ended, cups still on the ground, lights still on. These places were designed with crowds in mind. The chairs, the signs, the whole layout assumes you're supposed to be there. And when you're not, something feels wrong in a way that's hard to name. That's kenopsia, the eerie atmosphere of an abandoned space that used to hold life. What makes it different from just being in an empty room is that you can feel the absence. If you'd never known the place was full, it would just be a room. But you do know. So the emptiness has texture.
There's a reason so many people say they love rainy days, and it's more specific than just liking the look of rain. When it's properly pouring outside, loud enough to hear, bad enough that leaving would be miserable, and you're inside, warm, with nowhere to be, something shifts. The outside world and all its demands become physically unreachable. And in that unreachability, there's a kind of permission. Permission to stay put, to not deal with anything, to just exist where you are. This is chrysalism,
named after the chrysalis, the cocoon a butterfly lives in before it emerges. That sealed-off safety that feels like protection rather than confinement. What makes it work is the contrast. The noise of the storm outside is part of what makes the warmth inside feel so complete. Your brain registers the difference and simply relaxes. That's why some people crack a window just to hear the rain better. Objects can hold that same kind of quiet weight. Used bookshops have an atmosphere that's hard to put your finger on. It's not just the smell of old paper, though that's part of it. It's the objects themselves. Every book on those shelves has already had a life before it ended up here. Someone bought it, maybe read it cover to cover, maybe didn't, left a receipt inside as a bookmark, or underlined something that once meant everything to them. Then, for whatever reason, it got let go, and now it's here, waiting for someone new. Velocore is the word for that. The quiet, slightly melancholy atmosphere of secondhand spaces, places full of objects that once belonged to someone's life and no longer do. It's not a heavy sadness, more like a soft reminder that time passes, things change hands, and the world is full of small histories you could spend a lifetime discovering and still never exhaust. And then there were feelings about people, specifically about not quite fitting with them.
You're at a party, or a work event, or some gathering where everyone seems comfortable and the conversation is flowing. You're fine. You're talking to people. You're smiling. Nothing is technically wrong. But there's this low-level constant sense that you're slightly off. Not unwelcome, more like a piece that doesn't quite fit the puzzle it's been placed in. That's monachopsis, the subtle, persistent feeling of being out of place. What separates it from shyness is that it doesn't fade once you warm up. It's not about nerves. Something about your frequency just doesn't match the room, and no amount of adjusting closes the gap. People who feel this regularly tend to share the same quiet thought underneath it all, that somewhere there's a room they'd walk into and it would just work, where fitting in would be effortless, where they'd stop noticing the distance. Most of us spend a significant part of our lives looking for that room. And sometimes, even when we find people we love, we still push them away. Someone reaches out to you, a friend, a family member, someone who genuinely wants to spend time with you and hasn't done anything wrong. And something in you just closes. You make an excuse, say you're busy, push it off. Then you sit alone, which is technically what you chose, but it doesn't feel good either. This comes from German, which should surprise nobody given both the length of the word and the precision of what it describes. Mauerbauer Traurigkeit, roughly the wall builder's sadness.
The involuntary urge to push people away, even when you don't actually want to. What makes it different from simply needing alone time is exactly that. It feels like a reflex, not a decision. And then comes the loneliness that follows, the particular kind that's hard to complain about because you built it yourself. And some of us feel nostalgia for eras we never even lived through. You find a book of old photographs, or stumble onto footage of a city street from the 1970s, or watch an old home video. Those washed out colors, the slightly wrong aspect ratio, and you feel this pull, a longing for that time, that look, that pace of life, which doesn't make much logical sense because you weren't there. You have no memories of it. There's no real reason to miss something you never had. And yet the feeling is real, and it's remarkably common. It's called anemia, nostalgia for a time you've never known. The reason it happens is straightforward. Old media only preserves the good stuff. The photos that survived were the nice ones. The footage that remains tends to be celebrations, ordinary days someone thought worth recording. You're not seeing what it was actually like to live then. You're seeing the highlight reel, filtered through an aesthetic that now reads as warm and familiar. What you're really longing for is probably simplicity. The past just happens to be the easiest place to project it. And then there are the feelings that are simply about scale. Sometimes, usually when you're tired or staring at the sky too long, you get this sudden, uncomfortable sense of how small you are. There are 8 billion people on this planet right now, all doing something. The universe is so large, the numbers stop meaning anything. You are one person, in one place, in one tiny window of time, inside a history that stretches back billions of years. And somehow, the thing you said at work last Thursday is taking up most of your brain right now. That feeling is called oculism, the awareness of how small your experience actually is compared to the scale of everything. Some people find it freeing. The pressure drops when nothing matters that much in the grand picture. Others find it unsettling, like the floor briefly disappearing. Most people find it both, depending on the day. Either way, it arrives uninvited and leaves on its own schedule. And the last one might be the one that sits with you longest.
You're going to live one life, one timeline, one body, one sequence of days. And at some point, that fact becomes very real to you. Every choice you make is also the choice not to make 100 others. Every city you live in is a city you picked over dozens you didn't. Every path you take closes off paths you won't. The life you're building is, by definition, being built at the cost of every other version you could have had. Onism is that. The frustration of being anchored to just one place, one life. The quiet awareness of how much you're missing simply by being here, living this version rather than any of the infinite others that were technically available to you. It tends to surface when you're reading about a place you'll probably never visit, or watching a documentary about a completely different kind of life and feeling the gap. The internet has likely made this worse. You've never had such immediate access to evidence of all the lives you're not living. Every corner of human experience is one click away, which is incredible, and also sometimes a lot to sit with, because no matter what you choose, you're always aware of everything you didn't.